A critical race theory book being pushed on children compares whiteness to the devil. Joe Biden is losing the political battle over the border crisis. Plus, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot sees another weekend of violence. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is the 13-Minute News Hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with critical race theory. And during a recent exchange on MSNBC, we had anti-critical race theory advocate Christopher Rufo managed to get an eye roll from left-wing Princeton professor Eddie Glaude. Now, why the eye roll? Because Rufo was pointing out a book that is required reading in many schools for children as young as kindergarten, which tries to shame the children for being white. Rather than discuss the issue, Glaude decided just to roll his eyes. Now, before we get to the eye roll and before we get to the contents of the book, I just want to point out a tactic of the left regarding just about any issue, but in particular, critical race theory. Here's Glaude not talking about the issue, but going after Rufo personally.
This sort of argument is happening right now, and I want us to link it to January 6th. I want us to link it to the attack on voting rights. This is, in effect, in my view, Joe, an attempt to arrest substantive change in the country. And we give these folk the credit that they're making the arguments in good faith, and I don't think they are. And I'll say it to Christopher right to his face. I don't think this is a good faith argument.
So to me, that clip is a perfect example of the tactics of the left. First, he wants to lump in critical race theory with January 6th and an attack on voting rights when no one's voting rights are being attacked. But then he goes after Rufo and says he doesn't believe he's debating in good faith. So then the argument becomes whether you're debating in good faith and not the actual topic that you're debating. Classic tactic of the left. And then here's Glaude when Christopher Rufo actually discusses the issue.
What I'm concerned about and what millions of parents are really concerned about is things that are happening in hundreds of public schools in Illinois and Chicago, where they're teaching children as young as kindergarten that whiteness is the devil and attempts to lure people into it with the promise of stolen land and stolen riches. That's a book that's being used in hundreds of schools, and people don't think that's right.
So it's just so unprofessional and lame. He rolls his eyes, sending the message that, oh boy, here's some wacko conservative going off on some conspiracy theory. But just one problem. Everything Christopher Rufo said was true. The book is called Not My Idea, a book about whiteness. And Christopher Rufo tweeted out the pages, the exact references to the book and what was going on. After the interview, he tweeted this. Public schools are teaching kindergartners that whiteness is the devil and lures children with the promise of stolen land, stolen riches, and special favors. David French believes that state legislation banning this abuse is un-American and a threat to democracy. So following that tweet, Rufo tweeted again even more facts. And facts are just awesome because the left hates them. They hate dealing with facts, but you can't escape them. Facts are facts. And here's Rufo. Source. This specific book is being taught to kindergartners in Illinois, where it sparked a federal lawsuit, and to 4th and 5th graders in Pennsylvania, where it is included as part of the anti-racist curriculum. And then 2 links to the sources. So now at this point, this is where the leftists, lacking any ammunition to actually debate because they don't have the facts and they are afraid of the facts, this is where they resort to name calling. You know, racist or bigot or intolerant. So Glaude tweeted this. I find what you're doing to be insidious. See, no actual debate, just name calling. But we're going to stick with the facts. We're going to start looking at the book now. The book, again, is called Not My Idea, a book about whiteness. And I found a link through Christopher Rufo's references to someone reading the book. Now, here's what I found interesting, is that on that YouTube video, before you can watch it, there is a content warning. There's a content warning about this book, and yet it's required reading for children. So let's dive in. Check this out.
Who is that with their hands up? Why is that policeman screaming at him? Bang, 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 bang. Click. Looks like the mom turned off the television. They want to bury the truth.
Yep, that's a great depiction of police officers for children. They're just going around shooting people for no reason. And here's more.
Our family is kind to everyone. We don't see color. Deep down, we all know color matters. Skin color makes a difference in how the world sees you and in how you see the world.
See, this is just the polar opposite of what my generation was taught. The legacy of MLK, judging people on merit, a colorblind society. Here, and in critical race theory, race is everything. Race determines everything, which means that white people are racist. And here's more.
It makes a difference in how much trouble seems to find you or let you be. What is the security guard doing? Is he watching this white girl look at the bowls? Or is he keeping a close eye to this black boy who's looking at the bowls? Right.
Unreal. This push by the left will create a whole new generation of people who only judge on race. They separate by race. They label by race so that you're either a racist oppressor or you're not. That's what they're looking for. And then at the end of the book, there is an activities section, and that is what Rufo referenced in the interview. Whiteness is a bad deal. It always was. With the comment, dude, we can see your pointy tail. In other words, likening whiteness to the devil. On the following page, we see a white contract which tells the child who is reading this that because he or she is white, the child gets stolen land, stolen riches, special favors, and gets to mess with the lives of humans of color for the purpose of profit. This is just incredible, and this is why people must fight back. And as you saw in the interview, the left wants to push this agenda, but they know what it is and they won't debate it. So rather than engage in a discussion, that's why Eddie Glaude just gave an eye roll. It's absolutely pathetic. All right, next, let's talk about Joe Biden. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. All right, so let's talk about Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the crisis at the border. Because they want open borders. They want this flood. They just don't want the American people to notice it or to pay attention to the numbers. They think if they don't talk about it, people won't talk about what's going on at the border. If they ignore it, if their friends in the media don't cover it, people will think everything's fine. Well, guess what? People are noticing, and it's not good for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And here's the story. A Harvard CAPS Harris poll that was taken between June 15th and 17th, 2021, found that 74% of the registered voters polled think the surge in illegal border crossings is a crisis that must be addressed immediately. This is particularly significant because 84% of them underestimated the number of illegal crossings. Only 7% knew that there are between 150,000 and 200,000 illegal crossings a month. Only 36% think that Biden should continue his current border security policies. 64% think he should issue stricter policies to reduce illegal crossings. So let's look at that more closely. 74% of those surveyed said there's a crisis at the border. 84% underestimated the severity. That is a very big deal, and it is very bad news for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But adding to that, making things even worse, are the politics of it all, and it's not looking good. Here's more. Most voters, 68%, think that Biden's immigration executive orders encourage illegal immigration, and 55% think that his border policies are increasing the flow of drugs and crime into the United States. More than half, 55%, think that Biden should have left former President Donald Trump's immigration executive orders in place. 80% consider illegal immigration to be a serious problem, and 43% responded that it is a very serious one. 67% think that illegal crossers should be turned back to Mexico. A majority, 61%, believe that the flood of tens of thousands of unaccompanied alien children is Biden's fault. So that's not good, but that's the politics of the situation. It's one thing for there to be a bad situation, a crisis under your watch, but it's even worse politically for you to be blamed for that crisis, and that is exactly what people are doing. It does not look good for Biden or Harris. Something needs to be done about the border. The American people are noticing. All right, next let's talk about Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, because this 4th of July weekend was just mind-blowing in terms of violence. Now, if you recall, Lori Lightfoot says this rising crime, these shootings, that's not the reason she's being criticized. It's something else.
How much of this do you think might have to do with the fact that you're a woman, and specifically a black woman?
About 99% of it. Women and people of color are always held to a different standard. I understand that. I've known that my whole life. And the Tribune or whoever can write what they want. What I'm doing is fighting for the residents of the city.
So that's Lightfoot's reasoning for all the criticism coming her way. Let's throw this out there. This could be an actual reason, a more believable reason. Violence spiked in Chicago with 104 people shot over the long 4th of July weekend, leaving 19 dead and 13 children wounded, according to reports. It marked the deadliest weekend in Chicago this year, as a political back and forth continues in city halls and on Capitol Hill over a nationwide crime wave. 2 Chicago police officers were among those wounded over the weekend. They were shot while dispersing a crowd early Monday morning. At least 33 officers have been shot at this year, according to Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown. 2 officers wounded and 33 officers shot at this year. Why isn't that in the news? Why didn't that make the children's book that we covered earlier? And here's more. The city more than matched total homicides for the first 6 months of this year compared to the same period in 2020, which was one of the deadliest years in Chicago in decades. As of the end of June, homicides remain up 33% over the first 6 months of 2019. I believe that violence is a manifestation of systemic problems, and it's a public health crisis, Ms. Lightfoot said in a local television interview. When you see in way too many neighborhoods a lack of jobs, a lack of investment, these are historic, decades-long problems. That's interesting. A decades-long problem, and yet the city of Chicago, the people of Chicago, keep electing Democrats. You think maybe that is the decades-old problem? That Democrats care nothing about the inner city? They run it into the ground, and you see that in Democrats city after city after city. But hey, you can't criticize Lori Lightfoot, or you'll be called a sexist and a racist. All right, next let's talk about Mitch McConnell and other members of the GOP who are sending a warning message to state legislatures to not get too greedy with the redrawing of lines for congressional races in the upcoming election. And if you recall, we had the 2020 census, which means we get new congressional lines and possibly new congressional districts in certain states. For example, Florida gets a brand new congressional district. Texas gets 2 more congressional districts. So the Republican leadership, like Mitch McConnell, is saying, don't get too greedy drawing those lines. Be careful how you draw them. And here's the story. Republicans in Congress have issued a warning to their fellow conservatives in state government to not go too far when it comes to redistricting, Politico reported. Top party strategists have cautioned that overplaying their hand when it comes to gerrymandering could have negative consequences, despite the desire to create more opportunities to elect Republicans to Congress. The Kentucky GOP congressional delegation, which includes Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, has asked Republicans in the state legislature to let Democrat Representative John Yarmouth keep his Louisville district intact rather than fracture it to give conservatives control of all 6 of the state's seats. All right, so there are a couple reasons for this warning. One is you don't want to get too crazy and draw out a Democrat, get rid of a district, and then have those new congressional lines be thrown out in the court. And the other thing is you don't want to necessarily get rid of a Democrat by diluting his district, bringing in more red voters to counteract the blue, and then hurting the potential of other districts. One theory, keep red districts red and make sure that the blue districts are as blue as possible. That way, the red districts are safe. And here's more. Politico noted that the Trump era has made it more difficult to determine how a district will swing, with Democrats making gains in traditionally red suburbs, while Latino majority districts have become less blue. Carving up blue cities also means putting the other red districts at greater risk of becoming competitive, as they would absorb portions of the liberal areas. But Democrats who reside in red states expect Republicans to use every advantage they have to retake the House, according to Politico. Democrat Representative Emanuel Cleaver, whose district includes part of Kansas City, told Politico that several Missouri lawyers have already spoken to him about providing representation if his district is transformed. So, what do you think? Do we take advantage of this opportunity to draw as many Republican districts as we can? Or do we be careful? Do we make sure that nothing is too crazy, that some Democrats survive, that they hold on to their seats? Or do we grab as many opportunities as we can? Let me know in the comments. I'm interested in the discussion. There are pros and cons to both ways, but I think just like the Democrats, when they get an opportunity, they seize it. We need to jump on this, use these new districts to our advantage. That way, when we do retake the House, we have a margin that we can hold on to. All right, folks, that's our show for today. But don't forget, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Thanks again for tuning in. Our next show will be Friday at the same time. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.